they like to claim this and that. You know what I'm saying? They like to be above it, they ain't have authority. Roll hands with this white ass, bitch, stop and ask you. God damn what you talk about. Give a fuck what you believe. They gotta stand up and serve my God. Real prayer without these niggas. Yeah. Everybody put on their peace talk. Everybody put on their mic on. Go ahead, this fight is serious. Boy, and they hit us with dope and kill us with crack. What the fuck with all the leaders? I'm curious. You cash down through your blood. You traded you in and bought a new business. Actually, the prophets I tell you the scheme. If you don't wake up, you gon' die in dreams. I tell you once, don't tell you no more. I swear these crackers try to kill us slow. Just spoke to a nigga and fed me up on parole because of the COVID. It feel like no hope in this world and don't go together. Nobody's going together. I'm in the city blazing with my niggas. Just told the devil the score never settle. Man, he prophets. Sometimes these niggas keep talking about, you know, you respect my religion, I respect your religion. Go ahead and stop and ask you the prophets. You know, like we all come together. You know what I'm saying? They say God sold up the world. God sold up the world, and go ahead and stop and ask you. God damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe. You gotta stand up and serve my God. We'll pray without these niggas. Yeah. Hey, you know what, y'all? We'll pray without these niggas. Stand up. You know what I'm saying? Boy, your ass, but he's not stopping. I'm just step outside for show. The fake niggas say silent. I got it. Let's go. Let's go. I ain't taking no loss. Ain't no trouble. But we got the flow. Ain't no peace. Just coming to the over. I'm be low to the right now. Flex. We can't get it slate. And I can never let bike off and bike on. Got you, baby mother, on high, on high. Baby, pains through the fire. That's your prophecy. Never be so below to the Lord. The day you're born. You never will fail. You bitch, I can afford. I can piss off. You bring my water. Plus your leaders weak, let them lies slip through their teeth. They ain't even stop their hands, see the prophets.
That's just the reality, Christians. I'm sorry to hurt your feelings. I know your pastor lied to you every Sunday for 30 years, but that's what the church is doing. That's why they teach to lie. On your prophets.
Boy, your ass need to stop and ask you. Give a damn what you talk about. Don't give a fuck what you believe. They gotta stand up and serve my God. We don't pray without these niggas. We don't pray without these niggas. Gotta stand up and serve my God. We don't pray without these niggas.
Let me go on a slow motion picture.
You gotta shoot at 60 frames per second.
Come on, now.
They say they wanna hit that wrong shit. These niggas claiming that they boss shit. These niggas better move it close. And then they get that wrong, move it close. See me, they like, keep on stopping. I'm on my way up and they ain't gon' stop me. They say they wanna hit that wrong shit. Coming up on my nose. They see me, they like, keep on stopping. I'm on my body, real niggas right beside me. Damn right, I broke my heart, been pulling up like a rocket. Can't nobody stop me. These niggas got me, so watch it out, boy. Coming all black, slither in the house, coming out, boy. I'm off their hip like a cowboy. I'm a king, you should bow, boy. Money like that, man, you cut up. Nothing I can handle. 144 with a quarter and four niggas, so you turn like a stick in the bando. Wild in the corner like a bum with a bando. I'm a lead like them. Keep on stopping, got this bitch off the hand, got this bitch, got this drip, I can hit this bitch with the soap. Bitch, fishing with the coffee. They say they want. These niggas claiming that they boss shit. These niggas better move it close. And then they get that wrong, move it close. It's all money, no funny thing you settle and see. You locked up, fucked up, and it's back to the streets. It's one way. You can check the residency. I reside with soldiers down on the soles of their feet. Cause there's never full designer ain't no power to me. Cause I'm cold as a bitch's shoulder, you ain't calling the weak. Get the cookies on the
living in this shit, little nigga. Never feeling third, little nigga, I'm past second. Guns, I gotta have them all like ass catcher. Shotty break a nigga ribs up like a swipe plus. We all stepping, kill you with kindness cause I'm dead nice. That 5'7", but you 6 feet, I'm talking height. That judge giving out spot, what you doing life. These hands are root GPS, I mean right. Right, we feel different, you know the vibes. Every save is all finished, we know the rhymes. I keep a 144 because I know it's God. Know it's hard, you know I'm with animals when we flow and ride. We back again, no cap when I'm with cap again. Yeah, they said they must smoke it, so we matching them. Everything righteous, so you know when we get back at them, you get hit up with a K, but no acronym.
They say they don't want to hit it wrong. These niggas claiming that they boss. These niggas been up with it cost.
Yeah, Shalom Israel.
Yes, shalom.
We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding GEN.YAHANNA. We've been teaching the truth about the Bible since 1969, that blacks, Hispanics, and Native Indians are the lost 12 tribes of the world. All right, quickly, before we get into the classes, I'll just run over the for the week locally here in Trinidad. Right, on Monday, the Monday night history class with priest and officer Makar Kobal. On a Tuesday, the brotherhood class with priest and officer Suwakiala. On a Wednesday, which is tonight, is the law class with priest and officer Matt Payak. I am priest and officer Maikwa. I'll be standing in for priest and officer Matt Payak tonight. On a Thursday, we do not have any classes locally here in Trinidad, but from time to time, we do stream the classes straight out of Harlem, New York with Fellow Shield General Mahaiman. On a Friday, the Lashon Kodash, which is the holy tongue or the Hebrew tongue, right, which is the native tongue of the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. This class is done by priest and officer Yakad, right? He Hebrew class, so tune in here in the I.S.U.P.K. You learn to read, write, and speak Hebrew. On a Saturday, right, we have the Sabbath service, right? The Sabbath service is done by priest and officer Sowapiala and priest and officer Yakad. From time to time, you may run the Sabbath service as well. On a Sunday is the scripture breakdown class with our camp leader, priest and officer Galawan. Right, this class is a highly interactive class, so you can tune in and ask your questions. Whatever questions you have about the Bible, you can tune in, get in the chat and ask whatever questions you want about the Bible, right? This is a Sunday. This is the scripture breakdown class with our camp leader, priest and officer Galawan. All right, all these classes, right, run from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. during the week, right? With the exception on a Saturday, right? Sabbath service runs from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. And the scripture breakdown class runs on a Sunday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. right, in the day, right? So you can tune in, right, to all I.S.U.P.K social media platforms locally here in Trinidad and Tobago. We on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, right, TikTok, and even on Clubhouse, right? So you can tune in to all our platforms locally, or you can tune in the I.S.U.P.K anywhere in the world. We have schools all over the world: Brazil, UK, Mexico, Florida, New York, Texas, right? So you can tune into all the I.S.U.P.K social media platforms to a school near you, right? And there you will be able to access all I.S.U.P.K material and know about all our upcoming events, all right? To the class, right? And just as the topic says, right, the religion, right, is the cause of the black man eating himself to destruction, right? And as we get in the class, you're going to understand why this is so, right? So we will start off with the first scripture. We will start with John chapter 8 and verse 32, and then we will move on to Timothy. So you will start off with John 8 and verse 32. Babakusha.
John chapter 8 and verse 32. And you shall know the truth.
You shall know what?
And you shall know the truth.
Right. So today, the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man is going to know the truth about what the Bible says about the foods that we should eat. Right. We will not just send here on the earth, right, to just pick up anything and stuff it in our mouth. Right. We were given laws, statutes, and commandments, ways and laws we should live by, right, whilst we dwell on the face of the earth, right? The black, the Hispanic, and Native Indian man is just not some caveman, understand, or some untaught plan by God that he made, right? We were carefully thought of and made, right, to the Most High's liking, right, and given laws, statutes, and commandments that would govern us on the face of the earth, right? Continue, Baba Kasha.
And the truth shall make you free,
right? And if this truth will make you free, understand? Because now we're going to understand how to live on the earth, right? We won't be bondage to all these different animals and even in our society we wouldn't become prisoners, right, to our own environment, right? The Most High give us laws. He gave the black man, the Hispanic man, and the Native Indian man laws, statutes, and commandments, right? And give them the earth to rule over, right? To rule over even the other nations, right? But the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man in times past broke these laws, right? The disobeyed the commandments of the Most High, causing the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man to be in captivity today, right? Now we're in the captivity of Babylon the Great, right? Known modern day today as America, right? So the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, this is not your rest in Jamaica or Trinidad or the United States of America or Puerto Rico or Venezuela, right? Peru, Argentina, Colombia, all these people are the true Jews of the Bible. They are the Israelites of the Bible, right? And though we may be in these places are not our rest, right? The black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man are the chosen people of God, right? And our homeland, right? Our motherland, as we may say it, is the nation of Israel, not the Israel that we know today, right? The Israel that we know today was formed in 1948, right? And it's have a set of white Jews, right? Fake Jews, as the Bible calls them, right? The Bible calls them the synagogue of Satan, right? Because all that these fake Jews proclaim, right, to be the chosen people of God is a lie, right? According to the scriptures, the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man are the true Jews of the Bible, right? So from that scripture, you'll give me 1 Timothy, right, and you'll give me chapter 4 and verse 4, Babakosha, right? Before we get into the scripture, right? This is a famous scripture used by the Christian church and many other religions, right? That claim to know about the Bible, right? Saying that you can eat anything. Understand? So whatever you pick up a lizard or a frog or a snake, right? Based on your culture, you could do what you want. You could eat it. Understand? Right? You could eat whale. Understand? Right? And shark and even the more stranger creatures, right? Or the bat, right? And crab, different type of crabs of the ocean, lobster, right? Conchs and oyster, right? Right? All these strange foods, octopus, right? The stating that every human on the earth can eat what they want, what they classify as food, right? But according to the Bible, according to the manual that was given to run this earth, right? This is not so, right? And the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man should separate himself, right, from all these doctrines and philosophies that the other nations and other races come up with, because the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is a chosen people by the Most High, right? We are royal people, right? We were given the authority as priests and kings on the face of the earth, right? And priests and kings on the face of the earth, we're not supposed to be eating any and anything, right? There were things that the Most High gave us so that we could eat, and things that we were not supposed to eat, right? And one of the major reasons is all different strains of diseases, right? And then now the animals that we were not supposed to eat, God already created them for a purpose, right? They already have their own purpose. And when you go and take them off the food and make them into your food, right, and bring them to your food chain, you now disturbing the entire ecosystem that the Most High create, right? And as I go in the class tonight, we're gonna about how we disturbing this ecosystem that the Most High create, right? So we go run this first scripture that cited about, right? And when this scripture does not mean what they think it means, right? So we will give 1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 4 by Okosha.
1 Timothy chapter 4 and verse 4. For every creature of the Most High is good.
Right? And this is so. Every creature the Most High is good, right? And none of the creatures, even the predator creatures, lions and right? And them big giant whale, right? That I will see scooping up a whole school of tuna, right? All these giant creatures, or all the alligators and snakes, it are no bad creatures on the face of the earth, because every creature have a purpose, right? So just as the scripture say, God create all these creatures for good, because everyone has a purpose. They have their purpose, what they're supposed to do, even down to the mice and the rats and the roach, right? And the worms, right? Everything has its purpose, right? Go ahead, Baba Kusha.
And nothing to be refused.
Right? And nothing to be refused, right? Because everything doing the job. Once you leave them as they're supposed to be in the ecosystem, everything will be functioning and doing the job they're supposed to do, right? Continue.
If it be received in thanksgiving.
If it be received what?
If it be received in thanksgiving.
Go ahead.
Verse 5.
Right? And if it be received in thanksgiving, you see, right after it have 2 semicolons. Right? So they're going to explain what it means by this part, right? Go down to verse 5, Abakasha.
For it is sanctified by the word of the Most High and prayer.
Right? And it is sanctified by the Most High, it is sanctified by the word of the Most High and pray, right? And how it is sanctified by the word, because when we go into the scriptures, this is how the word sanctified, right? Sanctified is another word for to cleanse or to set apart, right? How it is sanctified by the word? This is how it is sanctified by the word. When you go into the word separates what you should eat and what you should not eat. You understand? This is how the word sanctifies. So the word now gives you a guide how you should conduct yourself or have your diet on the face of the earth, right? So by you going in the word, now I could see, right, that we're not supposed to eat pork, or we're not supposed to eat crab, or we can eat chicken, or we can eat goats and cattle and things like that. The word is what does that, right? Not us. We don't come up and we will come up with a thought in our mind and say that look nice, right? Or I think the meat will taste good, right? We don't come up with that, right? The word is what gives you that separation, right? The word of the Most High, He set that in order, and He set it in place, right? For the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, when they rule over this earth, we were not ever supposed to eat every and anything that we could think about, right? And all those who fighting to eat all these different strange food that they're eating, right? When I tell them, so why you eat your brother? Why you eat your sister? Immediately they want to refrain from human meat, because somehow everybody had a context in their mind that you're not supposed to eat humans, right? The Most High then leave it up to you. Order, right? And this is the order He set, right? So you go jump to Deuteronomy 14 and verse 2, Baba Kisha. You go and see the order the Most High set when it comes to what a man should eat and what he shouldn't eat, right?
Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 2. For thou art an holy people.
What is the black, the Hispanic, and the Native?
An holy people.
Right? So the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man is a holy people. Go ahead.
Unto the Most High.
Unto who?
Unto the Most High.
Go ahead.
Thy power.
Go ahead.
And the Most High hath chosen thee to be a peculiar people.
That's right. Peculiar means special. So the Most High chose the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man, right? Through our forefathers, right? His seed was chosen in Isaac, and then through Jacob, and then came the nation of Israel, right? So the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man was a special people unto the Most High, right? Go ahead.
Unto himself, above all the nations.
Above all what?
Above all the nations.
Above all what?
Above all the nations.
That's right. Above all the different races on the face of the earth, the Most High chose the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. We have a special job to do on the face of this earth, right? Continue.
That are upon the earth.
Right? And so all the nations upon the earth, the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man was given a special job, to do on the face of the earth. Right? Continue.
Verse 3. Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing.
Right, and this, right, this is going into the dietary law for the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man. Right, when Christ returned to the earth, right, the entire earth will be under this subjection. Right, so the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right, the Most High told us what? Thou shalt not do what?
Thou shalt not eat any abominable thing.
Right, we were not supposed to eat any abominable thing. Go ahead.
Verse 4. These are the beasts you shall eat.
Right. So the first one says we cannot eat any abominable things. So immediately telling you that some things on the earth are abominable. Right? Right? To the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man. Some things immediately telling you some things are not good to eat. Right? So we're going to explain, right, what we should eat. Right? So go ahead.
These are the beasts you shall eat.
Right? So it's going to tell you these are the beasts on the earth that we should eat. Go ahead.
The ox, the sheep, and the goat.
And the goat. The ox, the sheep, and the goat. Right? The ox all have something in common. Right? Animals are clean animals. They are the animals that are cloven-footed and that chew the cud. And we'll get a little bit into that as we go along in the class. Right? Continue, Baba Kusha.
Verse 5. The hart, and the roebuck, and the fallow deer,
go ahead,
and the wild goat,
go ahead,
and the pygarg,
go ahead,
and the wild ox, and the shamus.
Right, and all these, right, we had a little technical difficulties with the class last week, but all these here are different types of deers, right? Things like antelopes and all these fall into those categories. The hart and the roebuck and the wild goat, all these are similar in nature, right? Continue.
Verse 6. And every beast that parted the hoof and cleaved the cleft into 2 claws,
right,
and chewed the cud among the beasts, that you shall eat.
Right, so every beast that parted the hoof, right, and cleaved the cleft into 2 claws and chewed the cud among the beasts, those you shall eat. Right, so beasts that are cloven-footed, right? So we'll just go and look at a beast that is cloven-footed. So we will get to see what the cloven foot look like, right? All right, so you get to see what a cloven foot look like. Right, so these is the beast with the cloven foot. Right, so if you could see it, right, it's split in the center, split between the toes. All right, so I can bring up this one. Nice. Right, so again, some good images here, right? So if you notice, right, the toes are split, but it's not only split, right, between the nail, it go right up between, right, even into the cleft of the foot. Understand? Right, and it's split right straight down through the knee, through the hoof or the nail of the animal, the claws of the animal. Right, so that's where you call cloven-footed. Right, right. That's some more down here. They're showing you underneath. Right, all these beasts are cloven-footed beasts, right? And then the next criteria, so it must have these 2 to be considered a clean beast, right? And the next one is to chew the cud, right? So let me get some footage quickly, so you can show the chewing of the cud, right? We will just run this first one.
Unlike humans, all grass-eating animals have a special stomach with...
Right, so this is the image of a cattle. Right, a cattle is a clean animal. The cattle is cloven-footed, and also it chews the cud. Right, so you're going to go to the process to show you what happens when an animal is chewing the cud. Right, this is a special type of animal. Right, that is different from many of the other animals out there. Right.
Unlike humans, all grass-eating animals have a special stomach with 4 chambers, namely rumen, reticulum, omasum, and abomasum. Let's see the process of digestion in grass-eating animals. The animals quickly swallow the grass and store it in rumen, the first chamber of the stomach. In the rumen, the food gets partially digested. The partially digested food is called cud. The cud is pushed into the reticulum, the second chamber of the stomach, and from here it is sent back into the mouth for thorough chewing. The process of chewing the cud is called rumination, and animals which chew the cud are called ruminants. The rechewed food is swallowed and sent into the omasum, the third and the smallest chamber of the stomach, to absorb excess water from the food. In the omasum, the food is broken down to even smaller pieces. This is then sent to the last chamber, abomasum, which is also called the digested food, then goes into the small intestine. Nutrients takes place. A large sac-like structure called cecum, present between the small intestine and large intestine, also contain bacteria that help in the digestion of cellulose, a carbohydrate that is present in grass. So, you now know why cattle keep chewing all the time.
Right? So basically, this is just a short clip to show you what happens when an animal chews the cud, right? These animals, their stomachs are separated into 4 sections, right? And every time the first section, they always bring it back up, chew it some more to refine it, right? And then it starts the second process to go down into the second chamber, into the third and the fourth, until it is excreted by the animal, right? Right? So that is the process of chewing the cud, right? And if you watch, I'll just show you next clip. This is a clip of a real animal, a cow, right? Chewing the cud. And when you look at it, you see the cow chewing, and then after a little bit, it is going to swallow the food, right? Right, it swallows the food, and then a little while, it will bring it back up. All right, it regurgitates the food out of that full stomach and begins to chew it to refine it once more again. And it keeps doing this process over and over. Every time it eats grass, it keeps bringing back up the food and refining it so that it could go into the other chambers in the stomach, right? And that is why these animals that chew the cud are always chewing, having this chewing action all the time, right? This is what is known as chewing the cud. And look at it again. He go swallow once more. Right, he swallows, and then he's going to bring up a next portion again, and the process starts once more again, right? So that is what they call chewing the cud, right? So to be considered a clean beast of the field, right? The animal had to be both cloven-footed and also chew the cud, right? And this would be considered as an animal that one could eat, right? So we're going on to verse 7, and now we're going to see the animals in Deuteronomy 14 and verse 7. We're going to see the animals that we should not eat.
Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 7. Nevertheless, these you shall not eat.
Right? And then now they're introducing it. The Most High is introducing it to the animals that you should not eat, right? You can go and take it. The animals is introducing Salakia, the Most High through Moses is introducing us to the animals that we should not eat, right? Them that chew the cud, right, or eat Salakia. Nevertheless, these ye shall not eat, them that chew the cud, or of them that divide the cloven hoof, as the camel, and the hare, and the coney, and the chew, and the cud, but divide not the hoof. Therefore, they are unclean to you, right? So basically, what Scripture is saying is that some animals that will chew the cud, and their hoof may not be cloven-footed, right? And it have other animals, right, that would not chew the cud, but therefore would be cloven-footed, right? One of these example of one of these animals is a pig, right? The pig is cloven-footed, but the pig does not chew the cud, right? The pig does not have this 4-chamber stomach to process food in the way that our cattle or our goat or our sheep does, right? So although the pig is cloven-footed, it does not chew the cud, therefore it is not categorized as an animal that one should eat, right? So give me verse 8, Babakusha.
Verse 8. And the swine, because they divided the hoof, yet cheweth not the cud.
Right, so the swine have the cloven-footed, just as we just said, but it doesn't chew, it doesn't chew the cud, right? Continue.
It is unclean unto you.
It is what?
It is unclean unto you.
Right, so the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man not supposed to be eating pork, right? Swine is another word for pig, right? And pork comes from pig, right? So the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man not supposed to be eating swine's flesh or pork meat, as we know it today, right? Continue.
You shall not eat of their flesh.
Right, we shall not eat of their flesh, go ahead.
Nor touch their dead carcass.
We're supposed to touch the dead carcass, right? Because our pig is an animal with a lot of diseases, right? So even touching the carcass, right, could bring a lot of diseases and sickness upon people, right? Disease could spread around from the dead carcass of these animals, right? And we'll just show a little bit of footage again to show you how dangerous these animals can be, right? When it comes to eating pork, right?
Quickly, in up to about 4 hours. On the other hand, mules and humans. In parts of the third world, it is the best scavenger known that exists in villages.
Right? So they say the pig is the best scavenger known in the villages, right? Because a pig will eat almost anything, right? Even down to PCs, right? They will clean any area or any dead animal that is rotten. A pig will eat it, right? So the pig is used as nature's garbage truck. Right? When I whole herd a pig pass, you understand, and clean up the whole area of anything rotten, any disease thing, any fecal matter, and all these things like that. The pig is going to clean up that, is going to totally clean up that, and the pig wouldn't get sick, right? Because the pig could handle that level of toxicity. But when we ingest the meat, this is passed on to the humans, and humans become very sick from all manner of diseases, right? So we will go in a little more.
Modern toilets and the villages excrete in open air. Excreta is cleared by pigs. Pig farm with 5,000 animals produces waste as a city of 50,000 people. A pig digests whatever it eats rather quickly, in up to about 4 hours.
Right. So a pig digestive system, in about 4 hours, it digests anything it eats, right?
On the other hand, cow takes a good 24 hours to digest what it's eaten.
Right, but a cow taking a whole 24 hours to digest what it eats. Right, so to show you the two animals is two different type of animals. Right, the pig make for fast digestion, so it could clean readily. Right, anything that is rotten or diseased or dead. Right, the pig is ready to do its job, right, in a quick time, right? The digestive system in a pig is pretty quick.
During the digestive process, animals, including humans, get rid of excess toxins as well as other components of the food eaten that could be dangerous to health. Pigs' bodies contain many toxins, worms, and related diseases. Although some of these infestations are harbored in other animals, modern veterinarians say that pigs are far more predisposed to the illnesses than any other animal. This could be because pigs like to scavenge and will eat any kind of food. Since the pig's digestive system operates rather basically, many of these toxins remain in the system to be stored.
Right, and they say because the pig have a very basic digestive system, the toxins remain in the body of the pig, right? They remain in the flesh, right? They remain in the meat, right?
In more than adequate fatty tissues. Pigs also do not have any sweat glands. Sweat glands are a tool for the body to get rid of toxins. This leaves more toxins in the pig's body.
Right, and the pigs, right, don't have any sweat glands, right, that could be used to excrete these toxins. Right, so just like a human, when a human go and exercise, right, we could release the toxins from the body through sweat, right? But unlike a pig can't do that. So it's showing you that the Most High in His wisdom designed the pig to keep in the toxins, right? So when a pig clean up a whole area, the toxins will not be released right, to the environment, right? The pig designed to keep in the toxins in the pig's body, right?
The pork and swine industry has been continually plagued and continues to be so to this day by a wide variety of hazardous infections and diseases. Even pigs that are carefully reared in pig farms are still affected. According to pigs that were raised in the US, 69% of all raw pork samples tested, nearly 200 samples in total, were contaminated with dangerous bacteria.
Right, so they say even if you domesticate a pig, right, and keep it in a clean environment in a pen, and you wash it down the pig pen every day, right, and instead of the pig eating fecal matter, you're giving it pellets, right, and proper farm food. When they test the meat was still contaminated, right? So no matter how they try to domesticate this animal, the meat was still toxic.
Yersinia enterocolitica, which causes fever and gastrointestinal illnesses with diarrhea, vomiting, and stomach cramps. Variety of parasites in their bodies and meat. Some of these parasites are difficult to kill, even when cooking. This is the reason there are so many warnings out there about eating undercooked pork. Pork poses certain health risks from bacteria and resistant bacteria that causes infection and viruses. Shocking new research has shown that millions of people are living with parasites inside them from eating pork.
Right, so they say the meat in the pork, although you cook it, right, the parasites in the meat still live, right, in the meat after it pass through all that cooking process, right, and then when it is ingested by humans become infected, right, and one study showed that over millions of people had parasites in them. So although they was moving around like healthy individuals, when they did a blood analysis on them, they were full of parasites, right? And all this come from eating pork.
Here are some of the deadliest parasites found in humans that consume pork. Pork tapeworm parasite, Bacteria solium.
Right, so they're going to give somebody the parasites that live in pork, right? One of them is the tapeworm.
Pork tapeworm is number one in top 10 list of foodborne parasites in the world, affecting 50 million people worldwide, killing 50,000 people each year worldwide. All these figures are both likely to be underestimated according to the researchers. Tapeworm infections are common in Asia, Africa, the Philippines, South America, parts of the southern Europe, and pockets of North America. The pork tapeworm can affect your heart, range, lungs, and diaphragm. 60% of the diagnosed cases of pork tapeworm, the victim has cysts inside the brain, and with the cysts in the brain, you get seizures, coma, hallucinations, or even possible death. The pork tapeworm forms cysts inside the tissue of the pig. When the human eats pork, they get infected. Adult tapeworms living inside the intestines of humans produce 50,000 eggs each.
Right, so the showing how the tapeworm causing cysts, right, and other human sickness, and even when the tapeworm life coming to an end, the tapeworm leaving 50,000 eggs inside the human. And so now that person is totally infested by parasites.
In the human gut, the cysts form into an adult tapeworm, where these can grow up to 7 meters long. The adult worms lay eggs that are passed into human feces. If the pig eats the feces, the pig grows cysts inside its muscles, tissues, and the life cycle repeats. Tapeworm larvae, brain parasites, is an increasingly serious public health problem. Tapeworm larvae can create cavities in the brain and other parts of the body tissues where their tiny bodies can grow sometimes into tapeworms 2 to 7 meters long and can live up to 25 years in the human body.
Right, so they say the tapeworm could be up to 7 meters long, right, and live up to 25 years in the body, right? And a lot of people like to say, well, look, I eat pork, I eat pork my whole life, and nothing happened to me. That is because the parasites can live a very long time. Right, and when they reach in your old age, that is when some of these things looking to take you. You understand where I come from? Right, things in your brain, right, things in your gut and your intestine. And when you're feeling now is a sickness you just develop just because of years of eating pork. These things now come down on you, right?
So many wormholes in the brain making it appear similar to a star.
The worms even making holes in the brain, right, and that causing a lot of people into hallucination and seizures, right? So all this is effect of eating pork. Chronic headaches and pork tapeworms. New research has shown that the cause of chronic headaches, such as migraines and tension, headache symptoms may be a sign of pork tapeworm inside the brain. The most common cause of adult onset epilepsy in the world is caused by pork tapeworm. 50 million people around the world are affected by epilepsy, many of which are caused by pork tapeworm. It can cause brain tumors, depression, dementia, aneurysm. Aneurysm occurs when part of the blood vessel, artery, or cardiac chamber swells, potentially causing headaches, dizziness, seizures, other neurological disorders, and sudden death.
I imagine that the same pork could cause brain aneurysm, right? Which could lead to sudden death, right? And some of them are dementia and dizziness and seizure and neurological disorders. Understand? All these things could be as a result of from eating pork.
This one parasite alone should be able to stop you from eating pork. Neurocystic sclerosis is the result of accidental ingestion of eggs of Taenia sodium, i.e. pork tapeworm, usually due to the contamination of food by people with Taeniasis tapeworm infection. The closer scientists look at the epidemiology of a disease, the worse it becomes. In one study in Peru, researchers found 37% of people showed signs of having been infected at some point. The review of the scientific literature concluded that somewhere between 11 million and 29 million people have neurocystic sclerosis in Latin America alone. Tapeworms are also common in the other regions of the world.
All right, so imagine 11 to 29 million people in Latin America alone. Tapeworm inside, having this parasite in them. And then talk about the other regions in North America and the Eastern regions, right? And the Asian regions that love to eat pork. You understand? The pork is one of the most popular meat on the market. Right? All kind of barbecue pigtail and bacon, you understand? And pork ribs, right? Barbecue pork, all these things, right? And people don't know the danger of this, right? But the most science wisdom given Moses instruction, right? Thousands of years before, he already told Moses told him it's easy, just don't eat it, just stay away from it. You understand? Nobody, right? To figure this out, just stay away from the meat, right? And that's all that was supposed to do. You understand? And by breaking a simple law as this, cause all this destruction upon people, all the destruction upon the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man. By breaking what some may call a basic law. You understand? Right? And overlook it. When Christians tell you, well, we can eat anything, this is what they're doing to you. They're killing you. You understand? The Christianity murdering the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man because they're telling them, you eat anything you want. You understand? This is how they're murdering you. This is them is who highlight on sick in the hospital bed. You understand? Because they never told you the truth about the Bible, right? And what the Bible says about the dietary law, the foods that we should eat and what we should eat.
Go ahead,
Sasha.
And when you check some, I think with the Taenia and all too, right? So when the worms are getting your body and thing, right, all your brain and all kind of thing, right? They bring down design already to overcome capacity in your head and thing, right? And that's not started thing. What we're not doing now, that's trying to pick up more mass.
That's right.
We're not supposed to be and everything, and then after that is 7 meters.
That's
so
right.
now that thing only turning upside down all over.
That's right. So it's a long giant worm inside the head and they don't know. And again headache. Some people going mad. And because it even causing a neurological disorder. And so it's a hallucinate and see things because it's affecting the brain. You understand where I'm from? So a lot of people who probably walking all over the street mad. Understand? There's all kind of different neurological disorders, and sometimes you see a person. I know you say something, I see something, but I know he was good. You understand where I'm from? Right? And all of a sudden you just see him into this position here. Right? All these things that comes from what breaking the Mosaic law. Right? So the laws look simple, but sometimes they have major repercussions. Right?
Africa, people have a higher risk of getting neurocystic sclerosis, vascular parasites. They have a pork tapeworm infection. This is called autoinfection. Live in a household with someone else who has a pork tapeworm, or even eat food made by someone with a pork tapeworm infection. The roundworm parasite, one of the biggest concerns with
so the first one we see was the tapeworm parasite. Now this is the roundworm parasite. This one causes trichinosis, right? Or they call it the trachea worm, right? So all this this is another parasite that comes also from eating pork.
with eating pork meat is trichinosis or trichinosis. This is an infection that humans get from eating pork that contains the larvae of the trichinella worm. Over 1 billion people are thought to be infected the worm by ingesting food or water which contains worm eggs. A large percentage of this 1 billion has been linked to consuming pork. One roundworm can produce 250,000 eggs a day. In the US and Canada alone, 1 in 6 people has trichinosis from eating trichina worms, which are found in pork. Many people have no symptoms to warn them of this, and when they do, they resemble symptoms of many other illnesses. These worms are not noticed during meat inspections, nor does salting or smoking kill them. Common symptoms of trichinosis include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headaches, fever, chills, coughs, swollen eyes, muscle pain, aching joints, coordination problems, heart issues, and even breathing problems.
Right? And they give you a list of symptoms, right? That comes from this parasite, right? And it just lists out nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache, fever, right? And one of the symptoms is coordination problems, right? So you have heart issues, right? And you also have breathing problems. So these things will look so normal. You understand? You might study it, you understand? Because you might just get diarrhea or you just vomit. You understand? And you don't know, so it could be a symptom of these type of bacteria, right? Or type of parasites that in the body, right? And you know yourself, you know you don't eat pork, shrimp. This is time to check yourself. You understand? And stop eat these meat before you totally destroy yourself, right? Or bring yourself in a state where you're not able to take care of yourself anymore because you become too much infested by these parasites. All right, go ahead, Sasha.
Yes, so like I said, I have a friend of mine, right? But this girl now, she friend now, that's not my friend, but she'll tell me the story what happened when she know. So she friend now had to live with that bag, but she rest she life and things. Right? So when she do find out the whole story, and then she end up coming and telling she hey, you see all them pork, you see the pork and thing, and they say because what going with she now, she had a right job man thing, right? And what she used to be doing eating a set of steak.
Yeah.
And thing, right? And when she do when they go and do the whole thing, she can't do no more surgery.
Yeah.
And she had also go and do more surgery. And when she finished, like she in a whole trauma and she whole life because she young and then after she go can't do she can't even have children again.
Yeah.
But that could kill she all them thing. And we just see that when she come and she tell she that friend do eat them, do eat no pork.
No, you understand? And that really happy we saying it because as a young person when you should be a healthy individual, right, you could become sick, right? And just like you say, the individual lost a major job opportunity. You understand? From you can't handle things that are affected. You understand? But by a simple thing that you see the laws just look so simple. And a man say, boy, so sometimes anyway, what's a man you say, I eaten that for years, nothing of the meeting. But he's studying. Understand? The parasites you have in the body. Understand? What could be passed down to the train observing your culture and watching you. And if I grow up seeing my father eating pork, shrimp, crab, and waiting, I would follow the same pattern. Understand? So now you're not only destroying yourself, but you're destroying your whole generation because everybody watching your example. Understand? And this here is just from eating swine flesh. You understand? Right? So you go hold up here. You hold up here on the pork for now, right? Right? But pork is not a meat to eat. There's not a clean beast according to the Bible. Right? This is an abominable meat. Right? The black Hispanic and Native Indian man should not be eating swine flesh or what we know as pork meat today. All right? Right, so from here, where it goes 7, verse 8. All right, go down to verse 9, Babakasha.
Verse 9.
Yeah.
Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 9. These you shall eat of all that are in the waters.
Right, so now you go into the waters, right? Now you're talking to about the beasts of the field, right? One of the examples that we bring was the pork meat. Now it has a lot of other meat. It has things like lizards and frogs, but in other classes we will continue on this topic, right? And we could touch on every other meat because even a popular meat down here is iguana, right? Iguana meat, right? And a lot of people don't know you can get leptospirosis from iguana, right? From the feces, and if you hold the animal, and the animal gets in contact with its own feces, and you hold it, and a man get a piece of bread or I don't know, piece of cake or whatever, you understand, and they hold and eat it, they can get leptospirosis, and that is something that even that damages the liver. Or the eyes turn yellow. It's like how somebody the disease called jaundice, like that is what is happening there some with leptospirosis sometimes, right? They inside your hand, on your foot, your eyes get yellow, your liver become damaged, right? And that can lead to death, right? So that is something going on. And a lot of people be holding going on all over the place. Mad, right? And that is only one disease that you can get from iguana. It have multiple diseases, right? Even from the skin of the animal, right? And iguana is a type of lizard, right? So we're not supposed to be eating that. So that is a basic thing. But in the other classes, as time goes on, as time along, we will keep going in these classes and keep bringing out these different animals and the parasites and diseases that they have in them. That's why it's written in the scriptures that we should not eat these animals, right? So now, read back on the top of verse 9 again.
Deuteronomy chapter 14 and verse 9. These you shall eat of all that are in the waters, all that have fins and scales.
Right, so go into the waters now, and now, right, the scriptures are telling you what you could eat in the waters. So even in the waters that have a division, right, they kind of take up anything you find in the water and eat, right? They kind of be eating eels and crab and anything. That's certain things you could eat and certain things you can't eat, right? And the criteria for eating things on the water, the most I make it simple. You make it simple for even a man with the least understanding, that he will be able to comprehend this, right? And it's easy. So you don't want to know the name of the fish, the type of the fish, the color of the fish, right? Yes, they just have to know that all the fish with fins and scales, those are the fish that you could eat, right? Continue, Baba Kusha.
Shall you eat?
Go ahead.
10. And whatsoever had not fins and scales, you may not eat. It is unclean unto you.
Right? And the things that do not have fins and scales, it must have the two. Right? Some animals have fins, but they do not have scales. Right? And some have scales and there are no fin. Right? But they must have the two matching, right, to be classified as a clean animal. If they don't have the two or they have one, they are unclean to us. They are unclean to the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man. We should not eat these if they don't have fins and scales. Right? So we will just go in. If they don't have fins and scales, right? So we will just go in right? Somebody thinks people eat, right? This is where it's called a squid, right? A squid don't have no fin and no scales, right? And you know, well, just by the video alone, you know the Chinese love all kind of strange things, right? Like to eat dog and cat and mouse and all kind of thing, right? And this is what happened. I will fast forward a little bit so we will get to see what happens to this squid, right? So he goes in the bucket, he takes out the squid, right? He watch the squid. A squid have no fins and a squid have no scales. And look at that. He immediately start to dissect the squid, right? Alive. Understand? That can show the barbaric nature of the other nations, right? And this is an animal that we were never supposed to eat, right? All these animals have their purpose, right? All these animals are predators, right, to other smaller animals, and that is how the ecosystem in the ocean is regulated, right? That is how the ecosystem in the rivers is regulated, right? So the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man not supposed to be participating in these things that the other nations come up with, right? We are special people, right? We are chosen people by the Most High, right? And the Most High wisdom gave us a proper dietary system that we should follow, right? The Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right, is a special people unto the Most High. These things are not food, right? We are totally destroying the filters and the regulators for the ecosystem of the ocean, right? And then when a set of fish die, right, or a set of birds get sick, or a set of disease pass, right? We don't understand where it comes from, and this is where it comes from, because the things that are supposed to regulate, right, and clean up the oceans are not doing their job, and now we find ourselves in sickness and disease, right? And they right, put up these things as food. These things are not food, right? So a squid is not food. Squid doesn't have a fin, neither scales, right? Right, and that the cruelty that they do to these animals, right? So we're going to our next one. Right, another one is the lobster, right? I know you will hear I.S.U.P.K always talking about pork, shrimp, crab, and lobster, right? Most of the times, right? There are other animals that are also unclean, right? But these are popular delicacies, right? That people eat, and these things are unlawful, right? They are not good, right? They have a sort of disease and bring destruction to the black, the Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right? And look at this, right? So this is right? This is the crab, right? And I have a pattern here.
They prefer to inhabit under.
Right, so it have a pattern here that we will bring out and show you how important that crab is,
Water
right?
grasses and oyster reefs. Their habitat can extend from the shoreline to about 300 feet deep. Their shell, called the carapace, is blue to olive green. Their claws are bright blue.
Right, so there's a local crab, a crab that is local to Trinidad here, and even in the Caribbean waters, right? It's a different type of crab, right? It's a crab that are in deep cold water, right? And it's a crab that predominantly lives on the land more than in the water, right? So this is a crab that is predominantly popular in the Caribbean, right? Blue crab.
Mature females have red tips on their claws. They have 3 pairs of walking legs. Their rear swimming legs look like paddles. Blue crabs are omnivores that eat a varied diet. They use their powerful claws to gather food. They feed on things like oysters, snails, mussels, crabs, and detritus. They play a key role in managing the populations of the animals they prey on. Sometimes they actively seek out food, and sometimes they burrow into the bottom with only their eye stalks visible, waiting for a passing meal. They become inactive during cold temperatures. Blue crabs reach maturity in 12 to 18 months. They grow more quickly in warmer water. They molt by shedding their shell as they grow. The new shell after a molt takes a few days to harden. Females only mate once in their lifetime, just after the molt that marks the transition from juvenile to adult. Females mate during this final molt when they are in soft shell condition. The males carry the females around and protect them from predators during this time. Females can produce between 750,000 and 8 million eggs per brood. They can store sperm from their mating encounter and spawn multiple times. Eggs are carried under the abdomen until they hatch into larvae. Females carrying egg masses are called sponge crabs. The hatched larvae are carried by ocean currents. They molt many times before they settle. Only a small fraction of the larvae make it to maturity. Blue crabs live about 3 years. They can grow to 9 inches across. Males grow larger than females. Males can be easily distinguished by their T-shaped abdomen versus the juvenile female's V-shaped abdomen that turns U-shaped as they mature. Blue crabs are eaten by large.
Right, so there's one of the things here, right? When you eat the crab, right? The crab, the predators who was control the population of the crab have no food immediately. You understand? Right? Because we turn crab into a delicacy. Right? When this is a type of animal food. You understand? There's a type of feed for other animals, for other birds, and for other prey. You understand? In the ecosystem. So immediately a whole section of what much crab does catch a year? You understand? Millions, right? To ship off to them restaurant. You understand? When now these things should be remaining in the ocean to do the job, and also to be food to the other animals in the food chain, right?
Fish, birds, and sea turtles. The crabs are prized by humans for their sweet, tender meat. Commercial and recreational fishermen. They make up the main fishery in the Chesapeake Bay. Fisheries exist for both hard-shelled and soft-shelled crabs that have just molted. Blue crabs are very resilient and can survive in water with low oxygen levels. Even so, fishing pressure, along with poor water quality and shoreline development, have caused a decline in their populations. Efforts to restore seagrass beds and limit harvesting are underway to prevent a collapse in blue crab fisheries. Around 1900, due to ballast waters on ships, the blue crab was introduced to the waters of northern Europe. Their distribution has since extended to neighboring waters, and they are regarded as an invasive species in the area.
Right. So the crabs are food, is a product of the food in the food chain, right? So now we're going to see, right, what the crab, lobster, and shrimp does do to water when all of them is left alone to do what they're supposed to do, right? Now we're going to see what they're supposed to be doing in the water, right? Right? Now we're going to see the role and function. If we leave them alone and don't eat these things, just as the descriptor told us, not to eat these type of, leave them alone, this is what's going to happen.
The first time I saw it, I couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like flawless.
Right? So on the screen here, you can see a lot the lobster on the bottom of the floor walking. You're seeing all these things that flittering across the screen. That is shrimp, right?
Really different than anything I've seen before. Look at some species are almost still coexisting, and they're all shrimp or crabs.
Right? And you see things with shrimp, crab, and lobster, especially, that can coexist with one another, right? Meaning that they just work together, right? Now this is the thing that you see the I.S.U.P.K saying all on the streets: crab, shrimp, pork, and lobster. Crab, shrimp, pork, and lobster, right? But it have merited, you understand? And they're going to see it here.
It's like, well, how do they do that? How do they split up the resources? How do they share things? And so they all have their job. Feeding, they're filter feeding, they're taking particles out of the water, they're picking on all of the things that.
Right? And these things they don't see, right? So this is a shrimp, right? And on the shrimp, right, foot have something like a broom, right? And that's to show you how ingenious the mosa is, right? So but when we take the shrimp out of the water, they just look like a foot, because you put it out of the water, all the ends on the feet just close together. But when it's in the water, it is open up like a broom. So now they're observing a shrimp in the water and what it does do. All right?
They can feed on.
You see the ends like a broom?
Process organic material, especially a lot of it every day.
And all the litter in the bottom of the ocean, them cutting it up and eating it.
And it works. And it's really resilient. If you put out a trap in one of the ways that we sample our shrimp, and you pull it up and you see hundreds, literally hundreds in each trap, people's eyes light up. Oh my goodness, that's a lot of shrimp. Yeah,
so the shrimp, right? So that's how the shrimp look out of the water. But when it's in the water now, you now start to see this broom on the feet of the shrimp, right?
The kinds of places where the shrimp like to be are exactly the same places where the people like to be.
Right? And what he's saying is, when they observe the shrimp always like to be where people is, right? Because wherever they are, that is where they're doing the work to clean the ocean. You understand? That is where the filter all the sediments and all the leftovers from humans and all the things, that when their work start. So after you leave, them cleaning. Understand? So they are the natural janitors of the earth. That I the work them get. So that's the most I give them a special work. Understand? Which is to clean. Right?
The reason that they like the same places that our shrimp do, that the shrimp are keeping it clean. And they're sweeping out the sediment from the bottom.
Look at that.
They're turning
the guys are working day after day, night after night. That's what they're doing. Sweeping and
to
eating.
use a lot of things that would otherwise pile up and be kind of slimy and not very attractive to swimmers.
Right? And what I observe that all the places that would have all this slimy matter and fecal matter from fish, the shrimp, the crab, and the lobster, all of them clean up that. Right? Even dead animals that floating around, right? That die in the sea of their own, the crab just cut it up, so does the lobster with the big pincers and eat it. Understand? So it wouldn't have no rotten fish and things like that in the ocean. Their work. Their work is to clean the bottom, the other whole ground in the bottom of the rivers and the ocean. That's their job. Their job is to clean.
And so all that sweeping and all that movement that they do is really keeping things great for recreation. And these shrimp do clean up the water. They're filter feeding out a lot of organic material and turning it into shrimp, which turns into fish food and various other kind of things within the food web. And they're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at no cost to Puerto Rico.
All right, and the same, all these animals are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they don't even have to pay to clean up the ocean. You understand? Because they're doing that job, right? And when we fish the shrimp and the crab and the lobster, who's going to clean the ocean? No wonder the water has become what? Anyway, the color of the water has changed, it's become brown, and then you find how the water not clear again, right? It's because why? They pull out all the bottom feeders from the ocean, so the water could no longer be clean again.
In order for this system to work in the mountains and for water quality to be available and clean to the public outside the forest, outside the mountains, we really have to have connectivity. We have to have a really good way for shrimp to migrate upstream and downstream. Same with the fishes, same with the snails. When we start planning, where do you divert the water? Do you have a dam in the channel or a reservoir off channel? Those are important decisions for maintaining these species. So we're hoping that more and more people appreciate what is living in the river and start to think about, well, how can we keep it that way? Because it does provide a lot of important ecosystem services, as we call it.
Right? Right, so that just a snippet. You understand? When we eat these things, when we eat the things that the Most High told us not to eat, that is what happened. You understand? We is who totally destroying our own environment. We is who filling ourselves with disease. And the reason why we gain disease from this that are among that toxicity in their system. They made for that. You understand where I come from? And that is their job. Their job is to clean. But then now the things that supposed to be clean in the oceans, we eating it. No wonder we all get sick. No wonder we high in high blood pressure and gout and all kind of trichinosis. And understand, from pork and all these different things, because we decided to eat the animals that was supposed to be the literal garbage men and garbage truck on the earth. You understand? They was that's why the water is stay clean. You understand? The Most High don't need no filter. You understand? And humans catch fish and put it in a tank and put a filter. The filter is to do what? Clean the aquarium to keep it clean. The oceans have a natural filter. The rivers have a natural filter. You understand? Which is the animals that coexist together. You understand? And when you look at shrimp, right? When they hear a net full with shrimp, they see how much shrimp they have. Millions. Right? And imagine, right? If you leave them alone, there's millions of workers working day and night, and to ensure that the rivers. So whilst we sleeping in the night, they working. And to ensure that when we get up the next morning, the water just as clear or even clearer. Understand? Than we leave it the day before. You understand? And this is where the other nations, right? Especially the white man, America, you understand? Like to eat shrimp and lobster. That the big boy food, that the food of the billionaires. You understand where I come from? They like to rock back and have shrimp on the plate with all the hors d'oeuvres and things like that. Right? And they don't understand, right, that they're leading themselves to their own destruction. You understand? And that's why the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man need to escape. We need to escape the culture that we adopt from these other nations. We have to come back, you understand, to the law the Most High set for us, right, written in the scriptures, right? The Bible, the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man's constitution. You understand? This, you understand, right? This is what is going to give us our wisdom, right, in the sight of these other nations, right? We are that chosen people by the Most High, right? We were given the ability, you understand, by the Most High to know and to understand the scriptures. And that is why in the I.S.U.P.K under command in GEN.YAHANNA, we say come out of the Christian church, because you will never learn things like this in the Christian church. And the Christian church and all these other religions, Islam and Egyptology, right, and Noapian and Scientology and all these different religions will lead you to your own demise and to your own destruction. Understand? And leave you ignorant of the things that you should know. You understand? Why is living on the face of the earth. All right. So right there we did that was pork. We did the pork, the shrimp, the crab, the lobster. Right? We share the clean meat that you could eat, things like cattle and goat and sheep. All these are good animals to eat. Chicken, right? All these are good animals to eat. So you can't say you don't want to eat. It have lots of animals that you could eat, right? Just remember the beasts of the field, the animals, right? On the land, it must be cloven-footed, all right? And also through the cud. In the water, they must have fins and scales, right? That's how you identify these animals, right? Right? We go run through a few more, right? And maybe in next class we go through the birds, right? So you will know the birds that we could eat, right? And the birds that we can't eat, right? But you can eat things like chicken and turkey and these things like that, right? Right? This is another popular delicacy in Trinidad, which is the shark, right? Like the bacon shark. Like to go up Maracas, you understand? And rock back and eat a bacon shark, right? But what you have to know, that shark is not good to eat, all right? Shark, while the shark has fins, the shark doesn't have scales, all right? The shark body is made up of a different type of skin, right? So the shark has no scales, but the shark has fins, all right? So you're going to play a little snippet, and this will show the role of the shark, right? Because people will say, all right, but we can't eat shark, right? So we will just leave it. Yeah, we just leaving it. And the reason why we just leaving it is because the shark have a purpose, right? So now we're going to see some of the purpose that the shark have in the ocean that people do consider, right?
Sharks have been around 400 million years. They deserve our respect. They kill less than 10 humans a year worldwide, yet we kill up to 100 million of these animals.
If people were killed at the same rate, every single man, woman, and child in the United States would be gone in 3 years and 3 months.
Shark Week has an incredibly important place, as far as I'm concerned, for these animals and for humans respect sharks, and that we do as much as we possibly can to improve their conservation and to ensure that their populations are recovering and to ensure that everyone respects their place in the marine system.
Right, and here they're talking about what humans need to respect shark, but it's not that we need to respect shark. We need to respect the laws of the Most High. And understand? We need to respect the things that the Most High set. And understand? If we respect these things that the Most High set, then we won't have no problem on the earth. And understand? Everything will run the way it's supposed to run.
Shark Week gives people front row access to the world of sharks, which has led to a greater understanding of the importance of shark conservation.
This area is like going back in time, but because this area has been protected for a long time,
It's pristine. It's beautiful. It's
right. So they're looking at the condition of the waters, right? But by just leaving the ecosystem to function the way it's supposed to function, the waters become crystal clean. And all these colorful different barnacles and things begin to grow. The bottom of the ocean begin to flourish, right? Because this is a conservation area that you can't fish. You understand? And an area where they leave all the predators alone, right? And predators have a role, right, in this whole ecosystem.
Like the Florida Keys was 80, 100 years ago, before all the people, frankly. It definitely needs to be protected.
Sharks are the apex predator of their ecosystem. They are at the very, very top of the food chain.
It's just the ultimate ambush predator.
They are responsible for picking out the diseased, the old, the slow, the members of their prey that probably wouldn't survive anyway. And
right? So that is one of the role of the predator. They're picking out the diseased animals, right? Animals that become weak, right? Right? The old and the slow. You understand where I'm coming from? So any animals with defects, they will be too slow to swim, and it's obviously the sharks will eat them. You understand? And that is one of the rules of the shark in the ocean. So then now, right, the animal not even getting chance to die and rotten, right? And even if it die and rotten now, that is the lobster, the crab, and the shrimp come in. So if it die and rotten and it go down to the bottom, new animals taking over that job now. You understand? So it has different levels in the ecosystem. So everybody controlling a certain section. Therefore, the water remaining with pristine animals, and everybody, the conditioner at the ocean will be at a healthy level.
And then when they do that, they actually can help keep those populations of all the other animals healthy. And those healthy individuals pass their genes down to the next generation.
Right? And this is our next purpose, right? By only leaving healthy animals, the animals will just reproduce healthy animals. Because if an animal should mate with a next sick animal, it at the risk of getting that same disease. You understand? Just like we will be telling the black, the Hispanic, and the Native Indian man do marry of the other nations. You understand? Because now what, you're breaking your bloodline. You understand where I'm from? And this is exactly the same thing in the animal kingdom. You understand? And the animals are what? Mating or reproducing with other healthy animals. So they're preserving that healthy bloodline even in the ocean.
And that is survival of the fittest.
The world deserves to have predators. It needs predators. And hopefully through Shark Week and other educational programs, these animals will be there for many generations to come.
White sharks are returning to our waters, but I don't think that's any cause for concern. If anything, we should embrace it. These sharks can completely regulate the entire ecosystem, so seeing sharks is a good thing. We want them here.
Shark Week has consistently explained the very crucial role of a predator within an ecosystem. If the predators are there, then that habitat is doing well. And if there's an impact, if there's overfishing or pollution in the environment, the sharks and other predators are the first ones to disappear.
Right? So immediately they show you if the ecosystem go bad, them is the first one to leave or die in the ecosystem. You understand? So that is to show you how important the role is. So just by seeing you see two dead shark wash up somewhere, you don't know something wrong with the ecosystem. You understand? Right? And by people now fishing these sharks because they just kill the shark for the fin, right? Down here we go eat the meat, right? But a lot of places they just cut off the fins, right? Because to make shark fin soup, that's like a big thing outside, right? But by doing this, either way you eat the meat or you cut off the shark fin just for the fin. You understand? You're destroying the ecosystem, right? And that is why the most I give instructions: eat this, but don't eat this. So therefore, the ecosystem could be preserved in any way it should be.
Possibly one of the most disastrous practices affecting shark populations isn't even intended. Bycatching is the result of overfishing that plagues sharks all over the world.
I grew up watching sharks being, alive and well and jumping out of the water and doing all this amazing natural predation activity. And that's what sharks are. They shouldn't be.
The
the sharks that are caught on the tuna line, they're bycatch, or they're what we call cryptic mortality. The fishermen will cut those fins off, throw the body back, and they put those up in the rig and dry them, and they don't take any room in the freezer for anything but bluefin tuna. So that's really what's happening.
Right, and then some of the bigger ships now, right, that going for tuna, which is our next unlawful fish, right, end up scooping up these sharks, right, and they don't want the shark meat, so that they'll just scoop off the fins, right. So two unlawful fish, right, they're taking out the ocean, but they don't know the purpose that these fish have in the ocean, right. And we will go on even further after this to see or the destruction they're causing by removing these animals from the waters, right?
These guys are hauling in everything, including sharks as bycatch. So the idea now is myself and Mike are going to try and jump in on the nets, get some footage, and then see what we can see.
You see right behind me, there's a little square trap door. That's where they shovel out all the bycatch.
Many countries have moved to abolish shark finning. Many states in the U.S. have made shark fin an illegal substance. So we're definitely moving in the right direction. However, wherever there's a coastline, sharks are under attack, and it's very difficult to protect the entire ocean.
Approximately 273 million sharks per year have their fins cut off and are then thrown back into the ocean, a process known as finning.
It brings sharks into their living room. It educates people about sharks, and that's critically important because that's the first step to conservation.
As people become more aware of these animals, so they take more action to conserve them. So the longer Shark Week carries on, and the more people that become ambassadors for sharks, the better it is for both sharks and people who enjoy seeing these animals in action.
Right. So these are the importance of sharks, right, in the ocean, right? And then we will just touch on because we come up to the time, right? So we just touch on two more things, right? One, right, leading directly from the shark video, which is tuna, right? Tuna is another unlawful fish, right? So we're touching on things in the water, right? The tuna don't have that fins, but they don't have scales, right? They have a nice smooth body, right? But in the shark meat, right, and also in tuna have something called mercury, right? And when people ingest shark meat, right, or shark fin soup, or they eat tuna, these animals carry a very high level of mercury, right? Because when any toxic or mercury compounds end up in the water, these animals absorb it at very high levels, right? So they're able to take it out of the water, right? So that's another purpose of these animals, right? They could take certain metals out of the water, right? And it stores in the flesh of the animal, all right? And when we ingest it now we are affected by these things, right? So this is a clip, all right? A news clip of a man who ate tuna very regular, right? And he ended up with mercury poisoning, right?
Well, the Floresville man says he got mercury poisoning after eating a can of tuna almost every day for 6 months.
However, the tuna company and the National Fisheries Foundation says that's just not possible. So today we're giving you a chance to sound off on this story about tuna and the possible hazards. We want to know, how often do you eat canned tuna?
You can vote right now on the Ken's 5 app or by /vote on your computer. We'll keep track of the votes right here on the screen. And while you vote, Eyewitness News reporter Jeremy Baker sorts out the mercury madness.
My hand started to tremble. And also, I was walking from one room to another room and forgetting I was there.
Those are the symptoms Joe Antaldua says he was feeling after consuming 115 cans of tuna in 6 months.
All right, so this man was eating tuna pretty regular, right? And he say his hands started trembling. He can't remember where he was going, You understand? So immediately he realized like something affected him, right?
I was thinking, well, the only change in my diet was back in July. I had a lot of tuna, and I've done a little research on it, and I know that tuna contains some mercury. So I went to the doctor.
2 blood tests showed his mercury was elevated, not quite toxic, but Ansaldua, who now eats canned chicken and not tuna.
Right, so he gets so frightened from eating tuna, he say he started eat chicken. You understand? Right? And that's just to show you. You understand? We know better. You understand? But at times we get encouraged by eating things the other nations like to eat. You understand? All right?
Says the mercury did, and some symptoms still remain.
They still come and go, but it was a daily affair. You know, all times of day.
The Environmental Working Group has this seafood calculator according to FDA guidelines. I plugged in my weight, 170 pounds, age range, sex, and whether or not I have heart disease, and it tells me how much seafood I can eat a week depending on the type. You see this little color? It says only 1 serving per week, and that's the color corresponding to chunk white too.
So imagine the make a seafood calculator, right? To calculate fish you can eat. Because some of them fish have high levels of mercury, right? And the calculator work out for this man who put any age and his sex, right? And he weight, right? And it work out that he can only eat 1 can of tuna. First, right? 1 can of tuna, right, per week. First, the tuna has lead in it. You understand where I'm from? No, these are things that do tell you. You understand? These are things that are printed on the labels to tell you. You understand? But the black Hispanic and Indian man, they eating tuna sandwich every day. You understand? And over time, this building up in you and it causing other symptoms and other disease in you. And when you go to the doctor might be as fortunate as this man to tell him is lead. You understand? The doctor might diagnose it with something else. Right? And they're not knowing that is because of the food that they ingest within your system.
Yeah. But that FDA recommendation for once a week is really directed towards one particular group.
It's directed at a very specific, sensitive subpopulation.
Right? So the tuna decide to fight back, and they say this one group of people, right?
Pregnant women.
Gavin Gibbons.
Right? People as pregnant women. Right? Now, if this is so, right, you're not even telling the pregnant woman that if you eat tuna, right, most likely it could affect your child. You understand? They just leave it just like that. You understand? So now the pregnant woman child, unborn child, full of lead. Also, she body also full of lead, right, leading to all kind of diseases and things that happening to the child.
From the National Fisheries Institute says it would really take eating more than 30 cans of albacore to hit a toxic level of mercury, and for light tuna about 100. But even so, Ansaldua says he wants the labels changed.
Tuna companies say, well, the FDA allows so much mercury in our tuna. Okay, fine. If they allow it, then put it on your cans and let the people put a warning on there and let the people know.
Gibbons says that's just not necessary.
Published peer-reviewed science shows that the benefits of eating seafood, canned tuna included, far outweigh the risks.
Right. So what they're trying to say is you can get other benefits from tuna, right? So it come like to get the other benefits, you must get mercury poisoning, and it's insane, right? That's why the Most High make sure and put down these laws, right, in Leviticus and in Deuteronomy, right, to make the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian. This is not food. Understand? All these things is what causing the body of the black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man to fail. Understand? Because the things we eating that we thinking is food is not food. Right? According to the scriptures, these things are abominable to the body. All right. All right. So that was the tuna, and then we will move on. Right? This is the animal. Right? Well, on this side of the hemisphere, and I know we don't eat this, but it has strange places. But I show it. I just put up this video here to show how animals does have a purpose, right? And sometimes by destroying an animal, right, you totally destroy a system that could work properly, or an ecosystem that could work properly, right, and cause other predators to overtake a certain region. Understand? and thus when these predators overtake different regions, they bring with them disease. You understand where I come from, right? And illnesses, right? To a lot of different areas in society, right? Animal that they would least suspect that have this ability with it, right?
Every year, farms are attacked by wild animals. Clever farmers tried to come up with different ways. Built high fences, bought impressive guns, got the scariest dogs. Sooner or later, all attempts fail.
Right? So the farmers buying guns against dogs to protect the animals, and the cars seem to protect the animals, right? Right? So lucky, that's not right. Right? The cars seem right. So the cars seem to protect the animals, right? So now we're going to see what cover is a good protection for the animals.
But Farmer Steve was the smartest of them all. Steve got a donkey. $9 million. This is how much the Texas farmers lost in 1988 due to predators. After the losses were calculated, donkeys came into play. Back then, in order to save the livestock, they were used alongside traps, sirens, propane cannons, and lights, all the devices thanks to technological progress. But the most common donkeys proved to be much better. A year later, the Texas ranch was guarded by 1,800 donkeys. But how could this have happened? I mean, we're talking about donkeys. They're stubborn, not very smart, and aren't like herding dogs at all. You have to admit, it's hard to confuse the two. This is what the common people think. But farmers have long known the secret of donkeys. These seemingly harmless animals have an innate hatred for dogs and their kin. Coyotes, foxes, wolves, donkeys do not care. They simply do not want to see these animals on their territory. Even if the predators knew how to argue and prove they're not related to dogs, it would not work. The donkey thinks that someone is threatening the herd, which means he'll take measures.
Right?
A loud shriek that will attract the farmer's attention, an instant chase, and in some cases, powerful kicks with the front hoof.
Right? So this will discover a simple thing like a donkey, right? Where you might overlook, right? Actually saving the farm from different predators, right? So by destroying these animals, right, you're allowing other predators to overtake. You understand? Because this is a donkey and a hyena, right? Which is basically more or less a wild dog. You understand? And a hyena is a very dangerous animal. But look at a donkey handling this hyena like nothing. You understand? Right? And that is why the Most High does make a food chain and an ecosystem, right? And it actually functions very well, right? When it to work just how the Most High intended, right? So the donkey now, right? The hyena come on the farm, and the donkey taking the hyena by the ears and removing it, right? Removing it from the farm.
He'll take measures. A loud shriek that
just
will
by
attract the
natural
farmer's attention, an instant chase, and in some cases, donkeys only seem harmless, but do not even try to trespass on their territory or mess with the herd they protect. Getting a hook from a donkey is as ridiculous and embarrassing as it gets. Imagine if the predators were telling each other how their hunt was. I caught a deer today. I caught a hare. And I was attacked by a guard donkey. On average, one donkey can guard up to 200 sheep or goats.
Right? So one donkey guarding 200 sheep. You understand? 200 sheep.
They all graze on the same area, which is clearly visible. The better the donkey is trained, trained donkeys? Do they have some kind of camps where they take basic military training to later protect the poor sheep? As strange as it may sound, yes they do. Moreover, donkeys are not only trained, people even breed animals with prominent guard qualities. Well, you know how it works. The right genes here, the right genes there, and voila. Now your donkey is not Eeyore, but a real Rambo. Of course, super donkeys, like any thoroughbred animals, are more expensive than ordinary ones. On average, we're talking roughly $800 instead of $500. You sell me a donkey.
I don't know what it is, but you have got it.
Everything depends on the breed, the seller, the gender of the animal. Females are better at protecting. Ordinary males can be too aggressive when it's not warranted. For example, they sometimes mistake a newly born lamb for an intruder trespassing on their territory. What? This has been here before. No, he has not. There are also a bunch of other features that dictate the choice of animal. Size. The donkey must be medium or large, otherwise it won't handle the predator. Temper. Some animals take their responsibilities way too seriously. Well, stuff like that. But why are donkeys so great?
Right? Right? To show you where they discover other animals. So animals that they go overlook, or animals that they made it destroy or discard. You understand? Even all of them have a purpose, right? And that is like just like what we went back in the scripture, right? Give me back 1 Timothy 4, chapter 4 and verse 4, Baruch Hashem.
First Timothy chapter 4 and verse 4. For every creature of the Most High is good.
Is what?
Of every creature of the Most High is good.
That's right. And that is why every creature of the Most High is good. Every creature has its purpose. You understand? Right? So when the dietary law state that they shouldn't eat certain things, don't eat it. Do partake in these things, right? And those that they could partake in, be free. You understand? Right? They could take part in these things. Eat the lawful animals and the lawful animals the Most High say that they should eat. But the things that they should not eat, don't eat these things, right? And you will just give me Leviticus chapter 12 and Leviticus chapter 11 and verse 46 and 47, and we will close off.
Leviticus chapter
11, 46 and 47.
Leviticus chapter 11, verse 46. This is the law of the beast and of the fowl and everything and of every living creature that moveth in the waters.
Right? So this what we read here tonight is the law of the beast, of the fowl, right? And the creature that moveth in the waters. Go ahead.
And of every creature that creepeth upon the earth.
And every creature that creepeth upon the earth, right? In the upcoming class, and cover more the animals and creatures on the earth, right? Things we could eat and things we can't eat, right? So this is the law for it. This law is in the book of Leviticus chapter 11, right? Continue.
Verse 47. To make a difference between the unclean and the clean.
To make a difference between what?
To make a difference between the unclean and the clean.
To make a difference between what?
The unclean and the clean.
Right. You understand? The Most High has a difference between all these animals on the face of the earth. Some are clean animals that man could eat, and some are unclean animals that we should not eat, because we totally remove these animals from the purpose that they have on the disease and sickness to ourselves, right?
And between the beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten.
The beast that may be eaten and the beast that may not be eaten. All right, so we will close off here for today, right? But this right scripture, right? This constitution of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, the King James 1611 Bible, right? The Most High has a dietary law, right, for the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man to follow. He has rules. This earth has rules. We can't eat anything, right? You can't stuff anything down our throats, just like the Christian church says, right? Some things are abominable to the soul of the Black, Hispanic, and Native Indian man, right? So with that, we will pass the class over to Priest and Officer Shah.
Announcement. We are the I.S.U.P.K out of 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohanna. New rules for brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes to the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are here to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a peculiar person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to another brother or sister. There is another 6 months which the brother or sister will support each other. After the 6-month period, the brother or sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. You can find this in Numbers chapter 18, verse 21, and Malachi chapter 3, verse 8 to 10. Means 10 in Hebrew, from that my share, 10% of every penny and increase the most I give to you, give to the treasury department or teacher priest fund. Period offering for priests, non-mandatory. Whatever amount you like to give. Upcoming Holy Convocation, that will be the memorial blowing of trumpets. The first day of the 7th month, that will be Monday, the 6th September 2021. You can find it in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 24 and 25. Reminder after that we're trying to check on social media such as I.S.U.P.K, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and so on for I.S.U.P.K events and material. If your brother wants to be a trooper in the school, then just start wearing all black, which is good. Black boots, light shirt, light pants, light headband or staff. That we say, Madam, Sir, Honor, Madam. We will say, Lord, pray in Hebrew. Abanawa, Shabbat Shemaya, Wadash, Ayah, Shamka, Yahawah, Ma'a, Zaka, Aisha, Arataza, Ayah, Shemaya, Lakam, Yawam, Masalakno, Awakino, Abiano, Asawan, Bol, Oshino, Mayan, Kaya, Lakwa, Aman. What you said in English was our Father, which art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Yahweh, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. So be it. Sir, let's get a teacher one quickly salute. Imagine Shabbat. Imagine. Barak. Yahweh. About some else. Yahweh Shiva Sakakata. Oh, some else. Yalimata. Sa. Let's get the sisters online. I won't quickly salute. Imagine Shabbat. Imagine. Barak. Yahweh Shiva Sakakata. Yalimata. Pastor Smith.